Your desire is already here. It is not something that will come, not something distant or waiting in some future to unfold. It is now. And it has always been now. The moment you conceived it, the seed of its fulfillment was planted. To desire is to already possess. The only delay in its appearance is the time it takes for you to become aware of what is already yours. Imagination is not a tool for escape. It is the only reality. What you imagine with feeling becomes the world you walk through. There is no power outside of consciousness. You are not hoping, you are selecting. And once selected, the assumption of the wish fulfilled becomes the bridge between the unseen and the seen. Do not wait. Waiting is denial. Do not look for signs. Seeking signs is to confess that you do not believe it is done. Feel it now. Live in the end of it now. When you assume the state of the wish fulfilled, and you persist in that assumption, reality must conform. The world will rearrange itself to match your inner conviction. It cannot do otherwise. You are not trying to become. You are not striving to attract. You are claiming that which is already yours by right of consciousness. You move not by effort, but by identity. Who you are in imagination is who you are in truth. And who you are in truth determines everything that comes into your world. When you awaken in the morning, do not return to the memory of lack. Return instead to the feeling of your desire, already fulfilled. Speak not of what you want, but of what is. Let your inner conversations declare the reality of your fulfilled dream. Let your emotions match the joy of having, not the ache of wanting. There is no power working against you. There is no opposition but doubt. And doubt is simply forgetting who you are. Remember, you are the operant power. And what you feel as real is what becomes real. So you must feel now, think now, live now as the one who already has what they once desired. There is no more waiting. There is only awakening. And in this awakening, you will see that nothing was ever withheld. It was always here. It is here now. The moment you feel a desire within you, it is not the beginning of something that might happen one day. It is the evidence that what you seek is already present. Desire does not come from absence. It comes from a deeper knowing, a spiritual intuition that what you want already exists. You do not long for what cannot be. The longing is the confirmation of its existence, not in the outer world, but in the invisible realm of consciousness. And consciousness is the only true reality. You must stop treating desire as if it is a request to the universe. It is not a plea. It is not a signal that you are lacking something and that the external world must supply it. Instead, it is an announcement from the deeper part of you, the part that already knows it is done, the part that already holds the image, the feeling, the certainty of its fulfillment. Desire is not distance. Desire is arrival. When you recognize this, you stop waiting for the world to change, and you begin to change your perception of the world. To desire is to already receive. This is not a philosophical idea, it is a law. As soon as you imagine your desire and feel its reality, you shift into the dimension where it is already fulfilled. There are infinite versions of you, infinite realities where all things are true. The version of you who has what you now desire already exists. Your job is not to make that version come into being. This is why faith is not about hoping, but knowing. It is the knowing that precedes sight. The desire is the echo of your future self calling you to remember what is already true. You do not need to chase it. You do not need to force it. You simply need to agree with it, to surrender to the feeling of it being so. This is what it means to assume the state of the wish fulfilled. You are not making it happen. You are recognizing that it has already happened in the unseen. You are the only creator of your experience. There is no outside force deciding whether your desire will be granted. There is no need to convince the world, no need to earn, prove, or wait for permission. All creation is finished. Everything that ever will be already is. Your desire exists in a dimension more real than the material world, and through imagination you step into it. This is not metaphor, it is reality. The outer world is simply a reflection of the inner state. Change the inner state and the outer must follow. Most people live as though their desires are ahead of them. They speak of what they want as if it's not here yet. But every time you say, I want, You affirm that you don't have, and what you affirm, you experience. You must reverse the direction of your thinking. Say instead, "It is mine now." Not as a trick, not as a forced affirmation, but as a calm, settled recognition. If you truly knew that it was already yours, how would you feel? How would you walk, speak, carry yourself? That is the state you must enter. The state creates the fact. The outer manifestation is not the cause of your inner feeling. The inner feeling is the cause of the outer manifestation. So you do not wait to feel satisfied when the desire comes. You feel satisfied now, because in truth it already has. You occupy the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not because it pleases your mind, but because it aligns you with the version of you who already lives it. From that place, everything flows naturally. There is no need to figure out how your desire will come. The how belongs to the bridge of incidents, the natural unfolding of events that bring your invisible assumption into visible form. Your only task is to remain faithful to the end. Live from the end, not toward it. Your desire is not on the horizon. It is here, behind the veil of your senses, waiting for you to lift your awareness high enough to see it. You are not separated from what you want, you are one with it in imagination. And because imagination is the only true cause, that unity must express itself in time and space. The delay is never in the manifestation. The delay is in your recognition. As soon as you truly accept that your desire is yours now, it begins to take shape in your world. It must. The world is a mirror, and the mirror cannot reflect anything other than what you are being. So let the desire be your reminder, not your torment. Let it be the signal that something beautiful is already yours. Don't push against it. Don't mourn for it. Celebrate it. Embrace the feeling of it, and carry it within you like a secret treasure. Every time you feel it, smile inwardly, knowing that you have received it, that it has been given to you by the one power that creates all things, your own imagination. And when you feel doubt creeping in, return to the feeling, return to the knowing, return to the truth. Your desire is already here. Imagination is not a flight of fancy or an idle escape from reality. It is reality itself. The world you see with your physical eyes is only the shadow cast by the light of your imagination. Everything in your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. Every object, relationship, circumstance, or event you encounter first existed as a possibility within consciousness. You are not living in a world of facts. You are living in a world of assumptions made visible. What you accept as true in imagination, with feeling and persistence, becomes the world you walk through. Most people believe the imagination is secondary to the physical world. They treat it as a tool to entertain, to dream, or to escape. But imagination is not a tool. It is the source. It is the substance from which all things are made. Before anything appears in form, it exists in consciousness. The chair you sit on, the house you live in, the job you work, the relationships you experience, all of it began as an idea, a thought, a mental image. What you imagine with feeling is what you create, not by effort, but by law. Imagination is not passive. It is creative, dynamic, and law-abiding. It operates under a principle as exact and predictable as gravity. When you imagine something and accept it as true, whether good or bad, it begins to form itself into reality. You do not need to see how it will come about. You only need to remain faithful to the assumption. The outer world is a delayed reflection of the inner state. To change your life, you must first change the images you hold in your mind and the feelings you attach to them. There is no fiction in imagination. What you see, hear, feel, and touch inwardly is as real as what you perceive with your physical senses. In fact, it is more real, for the inner precedes the outer. If you would truly accept that imagination is reality, you would cease reacting to the visible world and begin to create consciously. You would stop blaming circumstances, people, and conditions and realize that your power lies not in changing the world, but in changing your assumptions. You are imagining all the time, whether you are aware of it or not. Your inner conversations, your daydreams, your reactions, your fears, all of these are forms of imagination, and they are constantly shaping your world. The secret is not to begin imagining, but to begin imagining deliberately, to use your imagination as the creative tool that it is, to feel yourself into the state of the wish fulfilled, and to dwell there until it hardens into fact. When you imagine something vividly and feel it as though it were already real, you enter a new state of consciousness. That state is a version of you in which the desire is already fulfilled. Every state exists now, and you move through states by what you accept as true. If you can persist in that assumption, regardless of what the senses show, you will begin to notice changes in your world. The people you meet, the events you experience, the opportunities that arise, all will align with the state you have entered in imagination. Imagination is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the womb of creation. Just as a seed is planted in the soil and with time and nourishment becomes a tree, so your imagined state, when nurtured with faith and feeling, becomes your physical experience. The law is simple. What you imagine, you create. The challenge is not the complexity of the law, but the discipline required to persist in the unseen, while the senses still report the old. You must become more loyal to your unseen reality than to the evidence of your senses. This does not mean denying what is, but it means no longer reacting to it as though it is fixed. The outer world is fluid, responsive, and obedient to your inner world. If you want to change your life, you must first change what you are imagining to be true. You must rehearse the new story, the new feeling, the new version of yourself until it becomes your natural state. Doubt arises when you believe the imagination is less real than the physical world. But the imagination is the cause, and the physical world is the effect. To focus only on the outer world is to try to change your reflection without changing your face. You may fight circumstances, argue with them, resist them, but they will only return in new forms until you change the root, which is your inner assumption. Imagination does not only respond to your conscious thoughts, it responds to your deepest feelings and beliefs. So it is not enough to say words. You must feel them. You must embody them. If you say, I am abundant, but inwardly feel fear and lack, then it is the feeling that creates, not the words. But once you align your inner conversation with the feeling of truth, the world must bend to match it. It has no choice. It is your mirror. You do not need anyone's permission to imagine a new life. You do not need circumstances to give you a sign. You are the sign. You are the one who decides what is real for you. The world you experience is the outpicturing of your imagination. When you take control of the inner world, the outer world becomes a joyful echo. You move through life not as a victim of chance, but as a master of experience. Do not underestimate the power of your inner images. A single moment of true inner vision, backed by feeling, is more powerful than years of effort. This is not about wishing, it is about assuming. It is not about begging, it is about being. You must claim the state inwardly and let the world catch up. Imagination is not a dream, it is destiny. What you hold within, you will hold in your hands. You are not separate from the life you long for. You are it already in imagination. And that is the only place anything ever begins. Feeling is the secret thread that weaves the invisible into the visible. It is not enough to simply think of your desire or to casually imagine it. You must feel it as though it were already true. The moment you feel the state of the wish fulfilled, you claim that state as your own. You enter a new version of yourself where the desire is no longer a hope or a longing, it is a fact. And in the realm of consciousness, what you accept as fact must reflect itself in the world of form. All creation begins with feeling. Thought alone, without the emotional charge of belief and conviction, is powerless. It is like a seed cast upon stone. But when thought is fused with feeling, it becomes alive, takes root and begins to move unseen forces to bring itself into being. The world responds not to your words, nor even your actions, but to your state of consciousness. And your state is determined by what you feel to be true. You can only experience what you are conscious of being. If you desire love, you must feel yourself to be loving and loved. If you desire abundance, you must feel yourself to be abundant. If you want health, you must feel yourself to be whole and well. These are not affirmations to chant mindlessly. They are states to inhabit. When you feel something deeply and sincerely, it becomes your dwelling place in consciousness. You live there, and life reorganizes itself to match that inner residence. Feeling is not the byproduct of the world, it is the cause of the world. People believe they must wait for something to happen to feel good. They believe joy will come when the job arrives, when the relationship manifests, when the bank account grows. But this is illusion. The outer world is always catching up to the inner world. You must first feel the joy, the success, the security, and then those states will externalize themselves in form. Self. You are not waiting for the world to give you a reason to feel. You are giving the world its instruction through your feeling. The secret is to feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled as if it were already so. This is not pretending, it is not fantasy. It is acceptance. It is faith in the unseen as though it were already seen. To say, I am, and feel it to be true, is to call into existence that which was invisible. When you say, I am wealthy, and feel it with certainty, with joy, with gratitude, you have moved into that state. And all the forces of life begin to arrange themselves to reflect that claim. You must remain loyal to the feeling. This is where many falter. They imagine for a few moments, then look to the outer world for signs, and when they do not see immediate change, they return to the old feeling, the old self, the old story. But this is like planting a seed and digging it up each day to see if it has sprouted. Feeling must be sustained. It must become natural. The desire must feel like a memory, not a wish. Feeling is the bridge between the seen and the unseen. It is the magnetic force that draws the desire into visibility. When you truly feel something to be yours, you act, speak, and think from that state, not toward it. You do not try to become wealthy. You are already wealthy in feeling, and the world reflects that wealth. You do not chase love. You are already love in feeling, and love finds its way to you. You do not beg for healing. You are already whole in feeling, and wholeness becomes your experience. Do not confuse feeling with emotion. Emotions may rise and fall, fluctuate with circumstances, and shift with moods. But feeling, in the sense of conscious assumption, is steady and intentional. It is the deep knowing that this is who I am. It is the inner conviction that the desire is already a part of you. You do not try to create it. You realize it. You awaken to it. And in that awakening, it must show itself. To change your world, you must change the feeling you dwell in. You must break the habit of feeling lack, doubt, fear, and unworthiness. These are the states that perpetuate the very conditions you wish to escape. Instead, choose to feel secure even if the world looks unstable. Choose to feel loved even if no one is there. Choose to feel successful even if your environment says otherwise. These are not lies. They are conscious creations, and your fidelity to them is what gives them life. Your feeling speaks louder than your thoughts. It speaks to the universe as instruction, as blueprint, as prayer. You may not always be able to control your circumstances, but you can always choose the feeling you give authority to. You are not a victim of feeling. You are its master. And when you learn to generate the feeling you desire, regardless of appearances, you begin to shape reality in your image. Your inner world is sacred. It is your workshop of creation. What you feel within will shape what you touch without. Every time you feel a thing to be true, the universe receives that command and begins to assemble the evidence. This is not superstition, it is law. It is the nature of consciousness. Feeling impregnates the invisible with life and form. As you dwell in a feeling, you bring it to birth. And so, let your imagination be felt. Do not merely see your desire in mind. Feel it in heart. Let it live in your body, your breath, your inner dialogue. Let it become so familiar that you no longer yearn for it because you already have it. Let the wish fulfilled become your new identity. You are not pretending. You are remembering who you really are. You are stepping into a state that has always been yours, waiting for your permission to express. Feeling is your creative authority. It is the divine stamp you place upon the invisible, commanding it to take shape. All that you desire is already prepared, already formed, already yours in the realm of consciousness. Your task is not to make it happen, but to feel it into being. And in the silence of belief, in the stillness of knowing, the world will rise to meet you, not as something earned, but as something remembered. Time is an illusion, and so is distance, when it comes to the world of consciousness. Your desire exists now, not in some distant future, but in this eternal present moment. The very act of desiring something is proof that it already exists in potential. Nothing can be longed for unless it is already present within consciousness. What you call a future event is simply a present reality not yet made visible to the senses. The idea that you must wait, struggle, or strive to reach your desire places it somewhere outside of you, somewhere unreachable. But in truth, it is within you now, fully formed, awaiting only your recognition of its presence. We live in a world where the linear concept of time rules the mind. You are told that things take time, that you must be patient, that processes must unfold step by step. But in consciousness, time is irrelevant. The end already exists. There is no beginning and no end, only the now. The desire is not something to chase, it is something to accept. It is already done, already accomplished, already a living reality in the invisible. It is not coming to you, it is coming through you. You are the operant power, and that power is expressed in the moment you accept the desire as real. Once you claim it as yours, without doubt, without hesitation, it begins to press itself out into form. But the delay, the sense of separation between you and the manifestation is not caused by time, it is caused by your refusal to feel it as done now. When you keep your desire in the future, saying someday or hopefully, you postpone its appearance, you live in the state of wanting, and the universe reflects back to you that very state. Wanting begets more wanting. The secret is to collapse the illusion of time, to realize that your imagination is not a fantasy, it is a portal into reality. When you imagine something with feeling and live in the assumption that it is true now, you shift your identity. And identity is what creates experience. If you are the person who has already received, already become, already attained the desired outcome, then life will move in agreement with that identity. It will rearrange circumstances, prompt actions, align events. Not because you are making it happen, but because you have become the version of yourself where it is already happening. This is not a call to delusion, but to awareness. The only reason anything appears to be not yet is because you're looking at life through the eyes of the old self. The version of you that believes in lack, delay, distance, and limitation is the only version that cannot see the fulfillment. Shift your focus and the world shifts with you. The moment you stop preparing to receive and start living as though you have already received, you step into the timeless state of being, where manifestation is inevitable. When you imagine and feel yourself into the scene of your desire, you are not hoping, it is not a rehearsal. It is the act of creation itself. And creation is finished. Everything that can be already is. You are simply choosing which version of reality you wish to express. Time is not the creator of your desire. Your assumption is. And when you persist in that assumption, even in the face of contradictory facts, you anchor yourself in the state where the desire is already fulfilled. Consider how dreams work. In a dream, there is no time as we know it. A complete scenario can unfold in seconds. You do not question how long it takes or whether you deserve it. You experience it fully, immediately, because in the dream state, time is irrelevant. The same is true of imagination. It is the true reality, the origin of all outer experience. When you dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled in your imagination, you enter the dimension where it is already so. You feel it, accept it, live it inwardly. You feel it, accept it, live it. Inwardly and outward. And what is accepted without But the human tendency is to look around and say, it hasn't happened yet. This is the trap. The moment you look to the senses to confirm your inner state, you fall back into time, into the illusion of separation. Do not let appearances dictate your belief. Let your belief dictate your reality. Live from the end, not toward it. This is the meaning of faith. Not blind belief, but conscious embodiment of that which the world has not yet caught up to. When you fully grasp that your desire is already here, you begin to walk differently, think differently, feel differently. You stop needing signs because you are the sign. You stop asking when because you know now. And in that knowing, the world becomes soft, flexible, malleable. It bends to the image held within your consciousness and not the other way around. Time becomes a servant, not a master. Do not waste your energy trying to figure out how it will come. The how is never your concern. The unfolding belongs to the deeper intelligence within you, the same power that beats your heart and moves the stars. Your role is simple. Assume the state, live in the state, and remain faithful to it. When doubts arise, return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When appearances contradict, deepen your conviction. When impatience creeps in, remember that what you desire already exists and is drawing near, not because of effort, but because of alignment. You are not becoming, you already are. You are not waiting, you are realizing, and in that realization the world conforms. What once seemed far away becomes near. What once seemed impossible becomes natural. What once required effort now flows with ease. Because the moment you accept that your desire is already here, the laws of time, space, and causation must rearrange themselves to support that truth. You do not need to wait for the evidence. You are the evidence. You are the fulfillment in motion, the answer in flesh, the living embodiment of the invisible made visible. You do not pray for what you already possess. You give thanks for it. You walk in gratitude, speak with authority, move with certainty, not because you hope it will happen, but because you know it already has. This is the transformation of consciousness. This is the release from waiting. This is the awakening to the eternal now, where all things are possible and already complete. Your desire is not outside of you. It is not ahead of you. It is here, now, and the moment you know it as so, the universe must reflect that knowing in form. Creation is already finished. Everything that could ever be already is. There is no need to create something new from the outside world because all things are already contained within consciousness. What you desire, long for, or yearn to experience is not something to be made, but something to be selected. Just as a radio does not create the music it plays, but merely tunes into the station that is already broadcasting, you do not create your desire, you tune into the version of reality in which it already exists. The entire field of possibilities is alive now, and you are constantly moving through it by your assumptions, your beliefs, and the states you inhabit. This is not a metaphor, but a living truth. The world you experience is a mirror reflecting your internal state. You can only ever encounter what you are in alignment with. So if you wish to experience the life you desire, you must become the version of yourself who already has it. This is why it is said, change your conception of yourself, and you will change the world around you. The self you imagine is the self you express. You do not force or manipulate outer events. You become inwardly what you wish to express outwardly, and the outer must follow. There is no striving involved in this process. Striving implies lack. It says, I don't have it, but maybe one day I will. This keeps you in a state of separation. But when you know creation is finished, there is no effort, only selection. You are always selecting states of being with your attention, and each state has a world attached to it. When you dwell in the state of love, you meet a world full of love. When you dwell in the state of lack, you meet a world full of limitations. The outer is simply the shadow of the inner. If you want to change the shadow, you don't argue with it. You don't try to force it into a new shape. You change the object that casts the shadow. Your inner conversations, your feelings, your self-talk, your imaginal acts, All these are the tools by which you navigate the finished creation. You move not by physical force, but by consciousness. And every possibility is available now, in the eternal present. This is why imagination is so powerful. It is not fantasy. It is the act of selecting from the infinite. What you can imagine with clarity and feeling, you can experience, but only if you remain faithful to it. The challenge is not in imagining a better life. Most people can do that. The challenge is in remaining loyal to that vision, regardless of appearances. The world will try to pull you back into the old state through facts, evidence, and conditions. But your job is not to obey the facts. It is to remain true to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You are never punished for your assumptions. You are only ever experiencing them. Life responds to you by perfect reflection. If something continues to appear in your world, it is because a part of you is still entertaining it within. You must learn to shift your attention deliberately. This is not about denying the present reality, but transcending it. You recognize it for what it is, the outpictured result of a past state, and then you choose again. You do not fight the present. You feel into the future as though it were now. When you say, I am wealthy, I am loved, I am free, you are not making a false claim. You are identifying with the version of yourself where those things are true. And the more you do this, the more real it becomes. Not because outer things are changing on their own, but because you have changed. You are seeing life through new eyes, hearing with new ears, feeling with new heart. And so the world echoes that inner transformation. Creation is finished, but it is infinite. Every outcome already exists, and you are the traveler moving through them by your focus. There is no competition, no scarcity, and no delay, only awareness. When you persist in the state of your fulfilled desire, the world must bend to that assumption. It is law. Not because you are manipulating something outside, but because you are harmonizing within. The world is not fixed, it is fluid, shifting in response to the arrangement of your consciousness. Most people live reactively. They wait for the world to change before they feel different. But the mystic, the awakened one, knows that the world changes because they feel differently. They live from the inside out. They assume the identity of the person who already has what they desire, and the world must reflect that identity. This is not magic. It is the natural law of consciousness. You may ask, but what if I don't believe it yet? Begin anyway. The feeling will grow with repetition. The more you assume it, the more you impress it. And the more you impress it, the more natural it becomes. Faith is not an emotion, it is a decision. It is the choice to remain in the desired state even when your senses say otherwise. And that choice, made consistently, reorients your world. Your attention is creative. Whatever you dwell upon, you nourish. So if you keep looking at lack, you perpetuate it. If you keep revisiting pain, you regenerate it. But if you give your attention to the fulfilled state, if you contemplate it, imagine it, feel it, speak from it, it will begin to take shape in your life. Not through willpower, but through alignment. You don't need to struggle to become. You simply allow yourself to be. This is the gift and the challenge of understanding that creation is finished. You are responsible for what you entertain within. You cannot blame the world anymore, because the world is only showing you what you have accepted as true of yourself. But this is also your freedom, because if you can assume something different, the world must change, not might, must. Creation is not linear. It is not a straight line of cause and effect. It is a field, and you are moving through it with your imagination and belief. Choose wisely, choose boldly. Do not beg the world for what is already yours. Accept it, feel it, know it, and let life echo back that inner decision. You are not here to wait and wish. You are here to awaken and select. The door is already open. The moment you realize this, you walk through it. Act as if you are not accessible. Withdraw your attention from the world that clamors for it. You do not need to be reachable, explainable, or understood by everyone. The world seeks your attention to maintain its illusion, but you have something more powerful within you, your imagination. When you act as if you are not accessible, you are not ignoring the world, you are simply choosing where to dwell. You are choosing to inhabit the state of your desire. Every state you assume has its own reactions, its own outcomes, and its own atmosphere. The state of being constantly available belongs to the self that doubts, the self that seeks approval, the self that fears missing out. But the self that knows, the self that is anchored in its wish fulfilled, does not need to check, to explain, to justify, or to beg for recognition. It is content in its knowing. It is secure in its assumption. When you remove yourself from the noise, you are not being arrogant. You are being intentional. You are no longer responding to appearances. You are no longer playing the part others cast for you. Instead, you have cast yourself in the role you desire to play, and you remain in character, unmoved by the script of the old story. The world reflects back what you accept as true. So if you walk as though you are already the version of yourself you long to be, the world will conform. But that version of you is not constantly explaining, proving, or doubting. That version walks with quiet confidence. That version understands the sacred power of selective attention. To act as if you are not accessible is to recognize that your power lies not in being everywhere, not in being available to all, but in being true to the state you have chosen. You are not ignoring reality, you are reordering it from within. Silence is not empty, it is creation in motion. Privacy is not absence, it is incubation. When you are not accessible, you are dwelling in your chosen reality, allowing it to mature, to solidify, to take root. Your assumption is your permission. What you do not give attention to cannot persist in your world, so become unavailable to doubt. Become inaccessible to fear. Refuse to entertain anything that contradicts your chosen reality. And in that sacred stillness, you will find the echoes of your assumption becoming form. Your assumption is your authority. You do not need permission from the world. Your inner acceptance is the only requirement for external change. Withdraw your attention from the external world, for it is only a reflection of your past assumptions. The world you see, the people you interact with, the circumstances you find yourself in, these are not the source of power, they are the echo. And the echo does not shape the voice. It simply repeats what has already been spoken. So many become lost in reacting to the world, trying to fix, change, and manage the outer, without understanding that the outer is nothing more than a shadow, a projection. If the shadow seems distorted, one must adjust the light, not chase the image on the wall. The truth is, what you observe with your senses is not permanent. It is not even the ultimate reality. It is simply a crystallized manifestation of where your attention has dwelled. When you withdraw that attention and redirect it inward, you reclaim your authorship. You no longer move about life as a victim of circumstance, but as the dreamer of the dream. And a dreamer does not need to manipulate the dream by force. They only need to shift their inner state. Attention is creative. Where you place it, you give life. If you give your attention to fear, you animate fear. If you give your attention to lack, you empower it. And if you constantly allow the world to tug at your focus, to demand responses, reactions, defenses, you lose your stillness, your clarity, and your power. The outer world becomes a master, and you become its servant. But the moment you recognize that you are the operant power, you realize you no longer need to respond to everything that calls your name. When something in the outer appears unwanted, whether it be a person's opinion, a financial strain, or a delay in what you desire, you must learn the discipline of inner withdrawal. This does not mean ignoring responsibilities or denying reality. It means refusing to give emotional energy to anything that does not align with your chosen state. It means choosing not to dwell in fear, worry, or reactivity. It means quietly remembering, this is only a reflection. I can shift it from within. So much energy is wasted trying to fix the mirror while ignoring the face. But when you realize that the mirror must reflect what you assume is true, you stop trying to control the reflection and start working on the source. Your inner world, your imagination, your emotions, these are the true tools of transformation. And they are only sharpened in silence, in stillness, in privacy. The more you seek validation from the outside, the more you delay your manifestation. The more you react to what you see, the more you reinforce the very thing you want to change. There is a sacred power in withdrawing attention from what no longer serves you. When you no longer respond to insults, you dissolve their power. When you no longer chase approval, you discover self-approval. When you no longer cling to appearances, you give birth to new possibilities. This is not coldness, it is clarity. It is not indifference, it is inner dominion. You are not here to chase, fix, or prove. You are here to create, and creation begins in consciousness. When you understand that the outer world is always playing catch-up to your inner state, you stop treating it as the authority, you stop explaining yourself, you stop looking for signs, you start being the sign. You walk in the assumption that what you desire is already yours, and you let the world conform in its own time. You do not rush it, you do not monitor it, you trust the law of assumption more than the evidence of your senses. To withdraw attention from the external world is to return home to yourself. It is to become intimate with your own imagination, with your own feelings, with your own inner conversations. It is in this invisible realm where all things are born. And if you nurture this inner space, protect it from distractions, and feed it with the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you will see the outer world reassemble to match it. But if you constantly leak energy through worry, comparison, and needing to be accessible to all, you scatter the very power meant to bring your desire into form. Not everyone needs access to your energy. Not every situation deserves your attention. You do not owe the world your constant availability. What you owe is your commitment to the life you truly desire. And that life can only be born through focused imagination, through deliberate withdrawal from what is, and total immersion in what can be. To the outer world, this may appear as distance. It may look like aloofness, but to the inner world, it is devotion. It is presence. It is alignment. The one who masters their attention masters their reality. So the next time you feel the pull to react, to explain, to argue, to fix, pause, return inward. Ask yourself, is this worthy of my energy? If it does not align with your vision, it is not your truth. And if it is not your truth, let it dissolve in your silence. Let it fade in your non-reaction. Let it pass like a cloud in the sky, while you remain rooted in the sun of your assumption. Your world will shift, not because you chased the change, but because you became unavailable to anything less than the life you've already claimed within. Assume the identity of your desired self. Not someday, not when circumstances improve, but now, in this very moment, you have the power to occupy a new state of consciousness. And that state, once fully accepted and lived in, will begin to reflect itself outwardly in ways that seem miraculous to those who do not understand the law. But there is no miracle, only a shift in awareness. A shift so complete, so embodied, that the outer world must conform. You are not trying to become something. You already are. Creation is finished. All possible versions of you exist now in this eternal present. You are not climbing a ladder to your ideal self, you are selecting it. You are moving into it by feeling your way into its atmosphere. And how do you do this? By assuming it is already yours. Not hoping, not wishing, but living from it, thinking from it, feeling from it, acting from it, responding to life as though it were already done. When you assume the identity of your desired self, you begin to carry a new frequency. The world, being only a mirror, reflects this new self back to you. The people you meet, the situations you attract, the opportunities that unfold, all begin to match the state you are in. You are not making anything happen by force, you are magnetizing it through being. This is why imagination is so powerful, because the inner scene you play again and again, if accepted as true, begins to create a vibration within you. And that vibration is not passive, it is creative. It moves through the layers of your world and organizes your reality to mirror it. But the key is not in seeing the desire from a distance. The key is in becoming it. You must think the thoughts of the one who already has it. You must speak as they speak, move as they move, respond as they respond. This is not pretending, it is aligning. Pretending implies doubt. It implies you are playing a part that is not truly yours. But assumption is different. Assumption means ownership. It means embodiment. It means you walk into the scene and say, "This is mine." And then you let go of how or when it must come, because you know it already is. The outer world is simply catching up with your inner claim. So many people wait for the evidence before they assume the state. But the law does not work that way. Evidence follows assumption. Circumstance follows identity. When you assume the identity of someone who is loved, confident, wealthy, healthy, or at peace, you are not trying to get those things. You are being the version of yourself who naturally attracts and experiences them. And this is why you must be mindful of what state you are occupying, not just for moments of the day, but consistently. The question is not, will I get what I want? The real question is, who am I being? Because who you are being in consciousness is what creates your world. If you walk through the day thinking from your old self, doubting, fearing, comparing, then no matter how much effort you apply on the outside, you are still planting the same seeds. The fruits may look different, but the roots are the same. But if you shift your inner dialogue, if you assume a new identity with conviction, then even if the outer world looks unchanged for a while, the seed has been planted in new soil, and it must grow. You are not required to know how it will unfold. You are only required to remain faithful to the state. That is your only job, to live and think and feel from your end as if it were already here. And that inner faith will carry you. It will guide your steps, align your actions, and open doors where there were none. This is not about denial of what appears, but detachment from it. You may look around and see the opposite of what you desire, but if you have truly assumed your new identity, that outer appearance becomes irrelevant. It is just an echo of the past, and it will fade, as all echoes do. You do not need to fight it. You do not need to argue with it. You simply remain loyal to your inner state. You persist in the assumption, and that persistence becomes your reality. So begin now, not tomorrow, not when conditions feel perfect. Begin in this moment to live from the self you desire to be. Ask yourself, how would I think, speak, and feel if it were already true? And then do that, be that. Let your imagination become more real to you than your senses. Let your inner world take priority. And as you do, your assumption will harden into fact. There is no need to force change. Identity is the cause, everything else is effect. And when you operate from the cause, when you shift who you are being, the effects must follow. They have no choice. Let the old story fall away. You do not need to explain it, revisit it, or fix it. You are not here to fight the past. You are here to create the new. And the new is born in assumption. When you fully accept that you are now the version of yourself who already has what you desire, the world rearranges. It does not delay out of punishment. It delays only when you doubt, when you waver, when you shift back and forth between old and new. Choose now. And keep choosing, not by willpower, but by quiet confidence, by trust in the unseen, by devotion to your inner world. The more you live from your desired identity, the more natural it becomes. And soon, it will no longer feel like an assumption. It will feel like the only truth you've ever known. You do not need to become, you only need to assume. And let everything else follow. Selective attention is sacred. The way you direct your focus determines the world that unfolds before you. There is immense power in deciding where your energy flows, because the world around you is a mirror of your inner state. What you choose to attend to, what you choose to engage with, emotionally, mentally, and energetically, shapes your reality. If you want to transform your life, you must learn the art of selective attention, choosing what to give energy to and what to let pass by unnoticed. Most people are conditioned to react to everything that comes their way, to engage with whatever the world throws at them, whether it aligns with their desires or not. This constant reactivity to external circumstances weakens your inner power and causes you to feel as though life is happening to you instead of through you. But when you learn to direct your focus with purpose, you shift from being a passive participant in your reality to an active creator of it. You recognize that you are not bound by the circumstances of the outer world, but instead are the master of what you choose to pay attention to. The world is full of distractions, and it is easy to get caught up in them. news, social media, opinions of others, old memories, worries about the future. All of these are pulls on your attention. But you are not obligated to give your energy to everything that demands it. Just because something is in front of you, just because something appears in your reality, does not mean it deserves your attention. In fact, many of these distractions are simply reflections of past beliefs and assumptions that no longer serve you. They are echoes of your previous state of consciousness, and the more you respond to them, the longer they persist. To change the reflection, you must change the focus. Selective attention is a conscious choice. It is the ability to decide what is worthy of your energy and what is not. This does not mean ignoring the outer world, nor does it mean living in denial of what is happening around you. What it means is choosing to respond from a place of power, choosing to engage with only that which aligns with your vision, your desires, and your higher self. It means refusing to be drawn into the drama, the negativity, or the distractions that do not serve your growth or purpose. In practice, selective attention means learning to disengage from thoughts, situations, and people that do not match the state of being you wish to embody. When you are confronted with a negative thought or situation, you have the power to shift your focus. You can choose to redirect your energy inward, to remind yourself of the state you are cultivating, and to refuse to give attention to what does not support it. This may require discipline, as the habit of reacting to external stimuli is deeply ingrained, but it is essential for transformation. Each time you consciously redirect your attention, you strengthen your power to shape your reality. The key is to realize that everything you focus on becomes amplified. Every thought, every feeling, every action you give attention to grows in your life. When you focus on lack, you reinforce the belief in lack. When you focus on fear, you strengthen the feeling of fear. But when you choose to focus on abundance, gratitude, love, and your desired outcome, you shift the energy toward the realization of those states. This is why it is so important to be discerning about where you place your attention. The more you focus on what you want, the more it becomes your experience. The more you focus on what you do not want, the more it persists. Selective attention is not about controlling or manipulating the external world. It is about mastering your inner world. It is about recognizing that the outer world is merely a reflection of your inner state, and that the most effective way to change your outer circumstances is to first change what you're paying attention to on the inside. If you want to experience peace, then give your attention to peace. If you want to experience love, focus on love. If you want to experience success, direct your energy toward thoughts, actions, and people who align with that vision. The more you practice this, the more the world around you begins to mirror these inner shifts. Another important aspect of selective attention is the ability to filter out negativity. This does not mean ignoring challenges or pretending that difficulties do not exist. Life will always present challenges, but it is how you respond to them that matters. You do not need to dwell on every problem or engage with every criticism. Instead, you can choose to respond from a place of calm, focus, and inner strength. You can decide that no matter what is happening in the outer world, your inner world will remain steady, aligned with your highest vision. By refusing to give attention to what disturbs your peace, you retain your power to influence the direction of your life. Learning to selectively attend to what supports your desires requires mindfulness and awareness. It is about becoming conscious of the thoughts, feelings, and circumstances you are engaging with. In a world that is constantly pulling you in different directions, it can be easy to lose track of where your energy is going. But by practicing mindfulness, you begin to notice when you are giving energy to things that do not serve you. Once you become aware of where your attention is flowing, you can consciously redirect it to thoughts, people, and actions that are in alignment with the life you want to create. Your attention is your most valuable resource. Every moment you spend focusing on something is a moment spent creating that thing in your life. The more you focus on what you desire, the more it becomes real. The more you focus on what you fear or do not want, the more it remains in your experience. The choice is yours. You have the power to direct your attention wherever you choose, and that is where your power lies. When you learn to be selective about where you place your energy, you will find that your reality begins to shift in profound ways. The more you focus on what brings you joy, what aligns with your purpose, and what supports your vision, the more these things begin to manifest in your life. And just as importantly, The more you withdraw attention from what does not serve you, the less power it will have over you. You are the master of your attention, and through it, you are the master of your life. Silence and privacy are creative tools. In a world that is constantly bustling, demanding, and pulling at your attention, the power of silence is often overlooked. But it is in these moments of stillness that creation happens. When you allow yourself the space to step back from the noise, from the distractions, from the endless cycle of inputs and outputs, you return to the source of all creativity, your own mind, your own inner world. Silence is not an absence, it is a presence. It is the fertile soil from which all things grow, and it is only in this space that true transformation can take place. When we talk about privacy, we are not just referring to physical space, though that is important. Privacy also speaks to the mental and emotional space you cultivate in your life. It is about protecting your inner world from the constant barrage of external influences, opinions, expectations, judgments, and the noise of the world that tries to dictate how you should think, feel, or act. Privacy is a sacred space where you can reflect, realign, and focus solely on the vision you are creating for your life, free from distractions and interruptions. Without this space, without the ability to retreat into your own mind, you are constantly at the mercy of the world around you. You are simply reacting rather than creating. When you learn to value silence, you begin to recognize that you are not defined by the external world. The external world is a reflection of your inner state, and in order to change it, you must first create a new inner reality. Silence gives you the opportunity to retreat into that reality, to focus on your thoughts and feelings, and to nurture the vision you are cultivating for your life. It is in these quiet moments that your imagination becomes your most powerful tool. Imagination is the bridge between the unseen world and the world of form. And it is only when you allow yourself the silence to truly feel and experience the desired state that this bridge becomes active and powerful. Privacy, in this sense, becomes the sacred space where you have the freedom to imagine without limitation, to dream without the interference of doubt or fear. It is in privacy that you are free to be your truest self, unburdened by the expectations and judgments of others. Without privacy, you would be constantly shaped and influenced by the opinions of those around you, unable to fully hear your own voice, your own desires, your own calling. Privacy creates a space for you to connect with your deepest truths, to align with your highest purpose, and to shape your world from the inside out. When you embrace silence and privacy, you are also creating the space for your desires to form. The outer world reflects your inner state, and the more you dwell in silence, in privacy, the more you tune into the frequency of your desires. In this space, your imagination is free to soar without constraint. You can picture yourself living the life you desire, experiencing the relationships, success, and abundance that you crave. And because silence allows you to feel the emotions associated with that life, you are planting the seeds of creation. The more you immerse yourself in the feeling of your desired outcome, the more it begins to take root in your life. In our fast-paced world, silence is often viewed as a void, a space to be filled with noise, distractions, or action. But in reality, silence is the space of potential, of possibility. It is where all new creation begins. Just as a seed needs the darkness of the soil to germinate, your desires need the privacy and stillness of your inner world to grow. If you constantly fill your mind with noise and distractions, if you constantly seek external validation or confirmation, you are preventing your desires from taking root. You are not giving them the privacy they need to grow and flourish. Just as you would not expose a seed to harsh winds and glaring sunlight before it is ready, you must not expose your desires to the noise of the external world before they have had a chance to form and solidify in your inner world. The power of silence is also in its ability to connect you to your intuition, to that quiet inner voice that knows the way forward. When you are constantly bombarded by the opinions and advice of others, it can be difficult to hear your own inner guidance. But when you embrace silence, you create the space to listen to yourself, to trust your instincts, and to align with the path that is right for you. In these quiet moments, you will receive insights, ideas, and inspiration that can guide you to your highest potential. These moments of silence are not wasted. They are the moments when you are aligning with your true self, when you are becoming more attuned to the vibration of your desires, and when you are most likely to receive the guidance that will lead you to your goals. When you are in a state of privacy and silence, you also cultivate a sense of peace. In a world filled with constant noise and distractions, peace becomes a rare and precious commodity. But peace is not something that comes from the external world, it is something that you create from within. It is in the silence that you find the peace that allows your desires to unfold effortlessly. The more you embrace silence and privacy, the more you align with the flow of life, the more you allow the natural unfolding of your desires. You are no longer forcing, striving, or struggling. You are simply being in the present moment, trusting that the universe will deliver what you have already claimed in your inner world. Silence and privacy also help you create the necessary mental and emotional space to detach from negative thoughts, old patterns, and limiting beliefs. The external world often bombards us with messages of scarcity, fear, and limitation, but when you step into silence, you step away from these influences. You create the space to clear your mind, to release the old thought patterns that no longer serve you, and to replace them with thoughts that align with your desires. In this quiet space, you are free to reprogram your mind, to step into a new identity, and to create the life you truly want. In conclusion, silence and privacy are not just about withdrawing from the world. They are about reconnecting with your true self, with your own inner power. They are about creating the space in which your desires can grow, in which your imagination can flourish, and in which your inner guidance can lead the way. Silence is not an absence, it is a presence. It is the creative force that enables you to shape your reality from the inside out. And privacy is the sacred space in which that creation takes place. By embracing silence and privacy, you align with your true self and the flow of life, and you allow the universe to bring your desires into being. The act of assuming the state of the person you wish to become is the most transformative practice you can engage in. It is the essence of creation itself. When you assume the identity of the person you desire to be, you are no longer waiting for the outer world to change or for your circumstances to align with your wishes. Instead, you are changing your internal state, and that change ripples outward into the world, shaping the events, people, and situations around you. This is not about pretending or imagining in a fleeting, wishful way. It is about embodying the reality that you are seeking to create as if it were already a fact. The moment you fully assume your new identity, you align your thoughts, your actions, and your feelings with that state, and the outer world must conform to this new truth. When you assume the state of the person you want to become, you shift your consciousness and stop identifying with the person you have been. The past is irrelevant because the identity you now hold is who you are becoming, not who you were. This assumption does not require external validation because you are no longer seeking proof from the outside world. You have already accepted in your inner world that you are the person you want to be. The key is in the acceptance. You must accept fully and completely that you are already that person and that the outer world is merely catching up with your new belief. To truly embody this new identity, you must first change the way you think. Your thoughts are the building blocks of your reality, and they must now align with your new state of being. If you desire to be confident, for example, you must think the thoughts of a confident person. You must stop thinking of yourself as insecure or unworthy and begin thinking from the perspective of someone who knows their value and acts with certainty. The same applies to any quality or state of being you wish to cultivate. Whether it is health, wealth, love, or success, your thoughts must reflect the belief that you are already living in that state. The thoughts you entertain create the vibration that you send out into the universe, and that vibration attracts matching experiences into your life. Along with changing your thoughts, you must also change your feelings. The emotional state you cultivate is just as important, if not more so, than the thoughts you think. Feelings are the energy that drives your thoughts and actions. When you assume the state of someone who is already living their desired life, you must feel the emotions of that person. If you desire to be wealthy, for example, you must feel abundant, regardless of your current financial situation. If you want to experience love, you must feel loved even if you are currently single. The feeling of already having what you desire is the key to manifesting it into your reality. It is not enough to think the right thoughts, you must also align your emotions with those thoughts, creating a harmonious vibration that sends a clear message to the universe about what you are ready to receive. Actions also play a crucial role in the assumption of your new identity. When you assume the state of the person you want to become, you must act as they would act. This does not mean forcing yourself to take actions before you feel ready, but rather responding to life in a way that aligns with the identity you are assuming. You will find that as you begin to think and feel from your new state of being, the appropriate actions will naturally follow. You may find yourself making decisions with greater clarity, pursuing opportunities that align with your desires, and taking steps that lead you closer to your goals. The more you act in alignment with your new identity, the more it becomes ingrained in your subconscious mind, and the more natural it will feel to embody this new version of yourself. One of the most powerful aspects of assuming the state of your desired self is that you begin to attract circumstances that match your new identity. The outer world is a reflection of your inner state, and when you change the way you think, feel, and act, the universe has no choice but to align with your new vibration. People, situations, and opportunities will appear in your life that support the identity you are embodying. It is not about forcing the world to conform to your desires, but about becoming the version of yourself that naturally draws those desires into your life. The more you assume the state of your desired self, the more your external world will begin to mirror that assumption. Your environment will reflect the energy you are putting out, and as your internal state shifts, the external world will shift with it. This is the power of assumption. It is a law that governs the universe. What you believe to be true on the inside must be reflected on the outside. But the key is that you must believe it before you see it. You must embody your desired state as though it is already yours. This requires faith and trust in the unseen. You may not have evidence in the physical world that your desires are coming to fruition, but your inner world is the most powerful tool you have. When you truly assume the state of the person you want to be, you are not waiting for evidence to appear. You are creating the evidence with your thoughts, feelings, and actions. In order to fully embrace this power, you must also be willing to let go of the old story that has defined you up until this point. Your past experiences, your past failures, your old beliefs. They are all part of the old identity you are shedding. If you continue to hold on to the story of who you have been, you will continue to recreate that reality. But when you let go of the past and embrace the new identity you are assuming, you open the door to infinite possibilities. You are no longer bound by past limitations, but are free to step into the version of yourself who already has everything you desire. It is important to remember that the process of assumption is not a one-time event. It is a continual practice. Every moment is an opportunity to reaffirm your new identity, to align your thoughts, feelings, and actions with your desired state. You must persist in assuming the state of the person you wish to become, even when external circumstances seem to contradict it. The more you persist in this assumption, the more real it becomes, both to you and to the world around you. As you continue to live from your new identity, the outer world will begin to shift, and you will find that the life you desire is unfolding before you. Assumption is the most powerful tool you have in shaping your reality. It is the key to creating the life you desire, because it aligns your inner world with your outer experiences. When you assume the state of the person you wish to become, you are not only changing your thoughts and feelings, but you are changing your very vibration. And as your vibration changes, the world around you must reflect that change. Every time you assume the state of your desired self, you are taking one step closer to the life you want to create. Keep assuming, keep embodying, and watch as your world transforms in alignment with your new identity. Act as if the universe is about to deliver everything you desire. You must begin with the end in mind, not just hope for it, not merely wish it would happen, but assume it has already occurred. This is the sacred art of creation. There is a divine law at work in your life, and it is this: what you feel to be true, what you accept as already yours in the unseen, will eventually clothe itself in the seen. The world you call reality bends to the inner world of imagination and belief. You are not waiting for the miracle. The miracle is waiting for you to awaken to your authority. Everything begins with awareness. The moment you become aware of your desire, a seed is planted. But a seed does not grow simply because it exists. It must be nurtured in the unseen, believed in even when there is no proof. And how do you nurture the seed? By living in the feeling that it is already so. You do not pray for what you want and then walk away doubting. You remain in the state of fulfillment. You walk, speak, breathe, and carry yourself as one who already possesses that which they have asked for. You must feel the joy now. You must feel the peace now. You must feel the gratitude now. It is this energy that calls the unseen into the seen. The law is impersonal, perfect, and immediate. But it responds not to words, not to effort, not even to need. It responds only to feeling. If you feel poor, no amount of affirmations can convince the universe otherwise. If you feel lonely, the world must reflect that loneliness back to you. But if you feel abundant, deeply and truly, if you rest in the sensation that all your needs are already met, then the outer world has no choice but to conform to that inner reality, because the outer is forever the shadow of the inner. This is why you must act as if, not to fool the world, but to align with the truth. Your reality is not shaped by what your eyes see. It is shaped by what your spirit believes. When you act as if you already have what you want, you are stepping into the timeline where it is already yours. You are choosing that version of reality from the infinite possibilities available to you. And that is no small thing. That is power. That is creation. That is faith in action. There is no room for doubt here. Doubt is the thief of manifestation. It is the voice that whispers, "It's not working," and pulls you out of the state just before the miracle. It is the illusion that something is missing, when in truth everything is already yours in another realm. Your job is not to make it happen. Your job is to believe that it has happened, and to allow it to unfold in divine order. You must learn to rest in the knowing that everything you've asked for is already on its way. Not someday, not far off, but now. The delay is only in your mind. Time is just the bridge. The unseen walks to become seen. You do not receive what you want, you receive what you are. So become the version of yourself who already has the life you dream of. Ask yourself, how would I walk if I knew the universe was delivering everything I desired? How would I speak? How would I treat others? How would I treat myself? Then walk like that. Speak like that. Treat yourself with that level of love, respect, and confidence, and you will find that the universe rushes in to meet you there, not because you begged it to, but because you aligned with the version of yourself where it was already done. Creation is finished, the future is not coming, it is waiting for your recognition, your assumption, your embodiment. The moment you dare to believe differently, the world rearranges itself around that belief. So act as if. Not someday, not later, not when you see the proof. Act as if today. Because the universe is not holding back your blessing. It is waiting for you to claim it as already yours. To live in the end means to take residence emotionally and mentally in the reality of your desire fulfilled. It is not a vague hope, not a wish cast into the wind, but a conscious and deliberate assumption that what you want has already happened. This is not about pretending or trying to trick the universe. It is about aligning your inner world so completely with the outcome you seek that the outer world has no choice but to mirror it back to you. This is the secret that few understand and even fewer practice consistently, and yet it is the cornerstone of all manifestation. When you live in the end, you no longer beg for your desire, you no longer chase it, you become it. You enter into a state of consciousness where it is already done, and this changes everything. The way you think changes, the way you carry yourself changes, the way you interpret life changes. You are no longer reacting to life as a beggar waiting for crumbs. You respond as someone who already owns the banquet table. That shift in identity, that shift in state, is the very force that bends reality. Imagine for a moment that you are longing for a healing in your life. Maybe it's physical healing, maybe emotional, or even spiritual. To live in the end means you no longer speak as someone who is still waiting for healing. You stop identifying with the sickness, with the pain, with the need. Instead, you begin to feel the joy, peace, and strength of someone who is already whole. You walk through your day as if restoration is complete. You speak with the confidence of someone who has already been delivered. You feel the gratitude that overflows from a heart that knows it is done. And that feeling, sustained, trusted, and accepted, begins to rearrange every aspect of your reality. This is not positive thinking. This is not about trying to be happy in the midst of lack. This is about assuming a new version of yourself who no longer lacks, no longer waits, no longer suffers. It is about shifting into the frequency of fulfillment. It is about coming into agreement with the life you truly desire and letting go of the version of you that has been shaped by fear, doubt, and delay. When you live in the end, the middle no longer troubles you. You're no longer shaken by circumstances, because you understand that circumstances are nothing more than echoes of past assumptions. The natural mind resists this. It wants proof. It demands logic. It seeks confirmation from the outside before it will allow you to believe differently. But this process requires a different kind of faith, a knowing that precedes the evidence. The moment you assume the state of the wish fulfilled, you step into a sacred agreement with unseen laws. You begin to draw to yourself the people, events, and opportunities that align with your inner state. Life begins to mirror back to you the version of yourself you've dared to believe in. This is why many remain stuck. They continue to rehearse the story of lack, pain, and failure while hoping for something different. But you cannot carry yesterday's consciousness into tomorrow's promise. To live in the end, you must lay down the weight of the past. You must stop asking how or when and start declaring that it is already so. The feeling must be real. You must close your eyes and see it clearly. Feel it deeply. Let it fill you until the outer world fades in comparison to the inner reality you've chosen to inhabit. You don't need the world to change first. You don't need their approval. You don't need the situation to improve before you allow yourself to feel the joy, the freedom, the fulfillment. You simply choose the state you desire and you remain there. You persist. You refuse to be moved by the shadows of old beliefs. You remain anchored in your new reality and you allow the world to catch up. Living in the end requires discipline. The mind will wander, old fears will whisper. Circumstances will tempt you to return to the familiar state of lack and longing. But your task is to persist, to remain in the end, even when everything around you says otherwise. The more you return to the state of fulfillment, the stronger it becomes. It becomes your default posture. And in time, what was once invisible becomes visible. Let the vision of your fulfilled desire become more real to you than the facts in front of you. Let the feeling of answered prayer live within your heart so fully that you can no longer remember what it felt like to live without it. When you walk in this kind of assumption, the laws of reality bend in your favor. You begin to witness the truth that the inner world governs the outer world, and your assumption of victory is the very force that births it into existence. Even now, the moment you choose to feel differently, you begin to shift timelines. You may not see it instantly with your eyes, but the change has begun. Reality is moving. Circumstances are responding. People are being rearranged. Paths are being cleared. But all of that starts with one thing: your decision to live as if it is already yours. And the universe honors that decision with absolute precision. Says, this is the art of spiritual creation. You don't wait for life to deliver your dreams. You become the dream fulfilled, and life mirrors it back. Every day, return to the state. Revisit the scene in your mind. Rehearse the joy. Speak the words you would speak if it were true. Walk with the peace you would feel if it were complete. And little by little, that inner world spills into the outer one. Live in the end, not because you see it, but because you believe it. Not because others confirm it, but because your soul knows it. Stay there, rest there, and watch how the universe responds to the one who dared to declare, it is done. Your inner state is the birthplace of your reality. Every thought you entertain, every feeling you dwell in, and every assumption you hold quietly and consistently becomes the mold from which your outer world is shaped. What appears outside of you is not random, nor is it the result of external forces alone. It is the reflection, the exact echo of your internal atmosphere. This truth is not easy to accept for most because it removes the illusion of blame and places the power squarely in your hands. But in that responsibility lies the greatest freedom. You are never at the mercy of the outer world. You are the source. If you feel powerless within, life will confirm that belief. It will surround you with situations that make you feel even more helpless. If you feel unworthy, opportunities will slip through your fingers, relationships will mirror rejection, and you'll find yourself entangled in experiences that reinforce the lie of inadequacy. But the moment you shift your inner state, when you begin to feel empowered, chosen, and aligned with love, your world begins to soften, respond, and transform. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. We live under the illusion that change begins externally. We are trained to fix, to manipulate, to hustle. But all of that is secondary. True transformation does not begin with action. It begins with identity. And identity is formed by state. Who you believe you are deeply and emotionally determines the shape your life takes. You may want abundance, but if you feel poor inside, life cannot contradict your dominant vibration. You may crave love, but if your heart is filled with fear, suspicion, and wounds from the past, then love will feel out of reach. Not because you are undeserving, but because your state of consciousness will always be honored first. The universe is faithful to reflect the truth you carry within. It doesn't judge, it doesn't punish, it doesn't reward like some moral judge in the sky. It simply responds to vibration. And your vibration is nothing more than the emotional atmosphere you cultivate every day. What do you feel when you wake up? What do you imagine when you close your eyes? What do you say to yourself when no one is listening? These subtle energies shape the world around you. They act as invisible instructions that the universe follows without resistance. You may look at your life today and feel disappointed, even betrayed. But the outer world is not mocking you. It is showing you something. It is a mirror, not a verdict. And mirrors do not lie, but they also do not punish. They reflect what is before them. If you change what the mirror sees, the reflection must also change. This is the simplicity and the depth of the spiritual law. And that law does not fail. There is no secret path, no mystery formula. The answer is always the same. Change your inner world and your outer world will follow, not through force, not through effort, but through resonance. Life meets you at the level of your assumption. It rises to greet your deepest beliefs, not your surface hopes. You may wish for success, but if you feel like a failure, you will continue to attract scenarios that match that vibration. The feeling must be corrected before the fact can appear. That is why feelings are the foundation of manifestation. There are no neutral states. Every moment you are radiating a frequency. Whether you are aware of it or not, you are always broadcasting something to the universe. And the universe, without resistance or delay, sends back a matching broadcast. This is not personal, it is principle. If you want to know what you've been feeling and believing, look at what surrounds you. Your relationships, your finances, your environment, they are all reports from your inner world. They are feedback, not fate. They are invitations to look within, not punishments for what you did wrong. This is why nothing changes until you change. You can move cities, end relationships, switch careers, but if your inner state remains the same patterns will follow you, because the problem was never out there. It was never the job, the person, or the place. It was the energy you carried within you, and it recreated the same lesson in a new form until you were willing to see it, feel it, and heal it. But the moment you become aware of your inner state, and more importantly, choose to change it, everything around you begins to shift. Not always instantly, not always dramatically, but definitely and surely. You might start to feel more peaceful before anything changes outside. You might notice new opportunities arise, new people appear, or long-standing problems begin to dissolve. These are not coincidences. These are confirmations that your world is responding to a new emotional blueprint. The work is not to control the outside, the work is to master the inside. This is why daily imagination, prayer, meditation, and gratitude are not just spiritual practices, they are tools of transformation. They allow you to rewire your emotional state, to settle into a new identity, to affirm a new version of reality. They help you build a new home in consciousness, and the world rushes to furnish that home with matching experiences. So ask yourself, what state have I been living in? Not what do I want, but what do I feel? Am I walking through life with the feeling of peace or the fear of lack? Am I embodying love or rehearsing rejection? Am I expecting things to go well or am I bracing for disappointment? These inner climates matter more than anything else. They are the architects of your world. You do not have to be perfect. You do not have to be enlightened. But you must be willing to take responsibility for your inner world. You must be willing to observe, to correct, and to choose again. Every moment gives you that chance. And every time you choose a higher state, a state of faith, of joy, of wholeness. You are sending out a new message to life itself. This is who I am now, and life will respond accordingly. The truth is, you are more powerful than you've ever realized, not because of what you do, but because of what you believe, what you feel, what you embody. When you take ownership of your inner state, you take ownership of your reality. And that is when you begin to experience true freedom, not freedom from circumstances, but freedom over them. Because when your inner world is settled, aligned, and clear, your outer world becomes a sacred reflection of your soul's truest desire. Imagination is not a childish escape or a meaningless mental exercise. It is the very fabric of creation. Everything that exists in the world around you once began as a thought, an image, a vision within someone's mind. Every invention, every building, every piece of art, every movement of progress, it was first unseen. It existed only in the invisible realm of imagination before it took shape in the world of form. What you imagine and emotionally accept as true begins to materialize, because imagination is the gateway through which spirit enters matter. It is not secondary to reality. It is the origin of it. To engage your imagination consciously is to step into the position of a creator. Most people use imagination unconsciously. They imagine worst-case scenarios, they replay old traumas, they entertain fears and doubts. Then they do this without realizing that they are planting seeds into the soil of their future. The mind does not distinguish between real and imagined when emotion is involved. It takes your feelings as instructions. And so when you feel fear, when you picture failure, when you constantly dwell in images of what you do not want, your life begins to shape itself around those images. That is not punishment. That is law. But when you learn to discipline your imagination, to fill it with images that align with your desires, you begin to see a transformation that feels nothing short of miraculous. You are no longer walking through life hoping for change. You are creating it. Not through struggle, but through inner alignment. You begin to see that the world is not happening to you. It is happening through you. You are its source. And the clearer the image you hold, the more intense the emotion you feel, the faster that image begins to draw form around. Imagination is not just about visualizing. It is about stepping into the scene of your full desire and living from it as if it were already done. You don't look at it from a distance as something you want. You enter it. You close your eyes and you see it. You smell the air, you hear the sounds, you feel the joy, the gratitude, the peace. And the more real you make that inner experience, the more quickly the outer world conforms to match it. The scene you repeat with emotion becomes the blueprint for your reality. Many people struggle because they think imagination is just fantasy. But imagination governed by desire, faith, and persistence becomes prophecy. It becomes the script that life must act out. The body begins to respond to it. Circumstances begin to shift. People are drawn in. The invisible begins to become visible. You are not forcing it. You're not chasing it. You are allowing the universe to express what you have already accepted within. This is the divine gift you've been given. This is the power that separates you from mere instinct and reaction. You have the power to create by choosing what you allow your mind to dwell on. What you see consistently in the inner world is what you begin to walk into in the outer world. That is why guarding your imagination is more important than guarding your money, your reputation, or your plans. Those things are all temporary. But imagination is eternal, and it is always creating. Your present circumstances do not matter as much as the images you carry within. You could be surrounded by limitation, but if your inner world is rich, abundant, and filled with the images of success and joy, then your circumstances will begin to reflect that. The world cannot resist a soul who lives in the certainty of imagination. It must respond. It is compelled to rearrange itself around the vibration of your inner vision, not because of wishful thinking, but because imagination, when accepted as reality, becomes prayer in its highest form. You may not realize it, but you are always imagining. Every worry, every assumption, every idle thought is a form of imagination. The question is not if you are imagining, but what you are imagining. Are you picturing the life you want? Or are you replaying fears you've inherited? Are you walking in scenes of love and fulfillment? Or are you rehearsing lack and rejection? Your results will answer that question more honestly than words ever could. The world doesn't respond to your desires. It responds to your dominant inner pictures. This is why those who change their imagination change their life. They don't need to convince anyone. They don't even need to announce it. They go within and they begin to live in the scenes of the person they wish to be. They feel the joy before it arrives. They speak as if it is already theirs. They treat their imagination as sacred, knowing that it is the womb of all that is to come. They revisit their inner scene every day, every night, until it feels more real than what the world currently shows them. And then, inevitably, the world changes. You don't need permission to begin. You don't need evidence to believe. You simply need the courage to go within and see yourself whole, loved, successful, healed. And you must keep seeing it again and again. Let it become so familiar that you can't imagine anything else. Let it become your home. Because what you see inwardly, you will visit outwardly. That is the divine pattern. The mistake many make is waiting for the outside to catch up before they allow themselves to believe. But by then, the moment of creation is gone. You must dare to feel it now. The moment you do, the vibration shifts, the signal changes. You've moved into alignment with a higher version of your life. And though you may not see the evidence yet, the current has already turned. Your imagination has spoken and the universe has heard. This is how the impossible becomes inevitable, not by effort, but by inner conviction, not by begging, but by imagining so vividly, so completely that the outer world must respond. You begin to live not as a reactor, but as a creator. You walk through life knowing that what you see with your eyes is temporary, but what you see within is eternal, powerful, and alive. And when you give your heart fully to that inner vision, the outer world bows to meet it. To act from the state, not toward the state, is to live in alignment with the truth you have already accepted within yourself. It is the quiet yet powerful decision to become the version of yourself who already has what you once longed for, instead of striving to become that person through effort, delay, or desperation. This principle is subtle yet transformative, and it is often misunderstood. Most people act toward their desires. They try, they chase, they struggle, but all of this effort comes from a place of lack. It begins with the assumption that they do not yet have what they want, and so their actions only reinforce that absence. But to act from the state is to assume the desire is already fulfilled, and to live as though the journey is complete, even while the evidence is still forming. When you act towards something, you're climbing uphill, constantly checking to see how far you've come, measuring yourself against a goal that always seems just out of reach. But when you act from something, the energy changes entirely. You're no longer proving, no longer waiting, no longer reacting. You are responding from a place of fullness. You speak differently. You walk differently. You make decisions that reflect confidence, trust, and assurance. You don't question your worthiness because you already know. You don't look around for signs. It is enough to know that the seed has been planted and that life responds to what you are, not what you are trying to become. This is the heart of spiritual manifestation. It isn't about convincing the world to give you something. It's about becoming the embodiment of the thing you desire so completely that the world reflects it back without resistance. That is why this principle doesn't require struggle. It requires identity. Who are you being right now? What state are you acting from? If you desire abundance, are your thoughts, emotions, and actions flowing from someone who is already abundant? Or are they driven by fear, scarcity, and the belief that you must earn your way into a better life? The distinction makes all the difference. You cannot fake the inner world. You can pretend outwardly, you can speak the right affirmations, take all the prescribed actions, but if your inner state contradicts your outer performance, your results will match the state, not the performance. That's why the work is always internal first. Your state precedes the manifestation. It lays the foundation. And once the foundation is firm, your actions become natural, inspired, and aligned, not forced or desperate. You are no longer trying to become, you are being. You are no longer wishing, you are embodying. This is not arrogance, it is spiritual intelligence. It is knowing that you are not separate from your desire. The moment you imagined it, the moment you felt it as true, it became yours. You do not need to wait for life to give you permission to believe. You give yourself that permission, and everything else begins to organize around that belief. Acting from the state means your faith is not in the future. It is in the now. It is in the invisible reality that has already taken shape within you. You begin to move through life differently. You don't chase people because you no longer feel incomplete. You don't compromise your worth because you know you are already standing in the center of divine favor. You don't need to prove anything to anyone because the approval you sought has been replaced by inner alignment. The decisions you make are guided not by fear of missing out, but by the quiet certainty that everything aligned with your highest good is already yours. This is what it means to walk by faith and not by sight. It is to trust the reality within more than the circumstances without. You might still be in the same job, the same home, the same struggle, but your state has shifted. And once the state shifts, the outer conditions begin to bend. Opportunities arise, doors open, people respond differently, and situations unfold in ways that feel like divine orchestration. But it all begins within. It doesn't mean you never act. It means your action is inspired from the state, not driven by desperation to get to the state. There is a deep peace in this way of living. You are not rushed. You are not panicked. You are no longer negotiating with life from a place of fear. You know where you stand, you know what is yours, and because you know, you begin to see confirmation after confirmation of what you've already accepted within. This kind of inner authority cannot be faked, but it can be cultivated. It comes from repeated practice, from visiting your desired state again and again until it becomes more familiar than your current reality. It comes from silencing the voices that tell you to wait, to beg, to settle. It comes from stepping into the shoes of your future self and walking in them until they fit. And they will fit because they were made for you. You must remember, the universe does not respond to your wants. It responds to your assumptions. When you act as if you are already who you desire to be, you are making a claim on that version of yourself. You are declaring, without needing to see the evidence, that this is your truth. That is the posture of faith. That is the power of imagination in motion. When you act from the state of love, life brings you love. When you act from the state of confidence, life gives you reasons to feel confident. When you act from the state of success, doors open that seem permanently shut. But it is not the door that creates the success. It is the success you felt within that opened the door. Everything begins inside. Everything begins with the state. You do not act to become. You act because you already are. And the moment that shift happens, life begins to echo that truth in ways that feel effortless, natural, and perfectly timed. You'll look back and realize that the turning point wasn't when the money came, or the relationship arrived, or the breakthrough occurred. The real turning point was the moment you changed your state and began to act, speak, and live from the truth that it was already done. That moment was the seed of every blessing that followed. The future is not something that is coming to you from the outside. It is not a random series of events waiting to happen. It is being chosen by you, moment by moment, through the inner states you allow yourself to live in. Creation is finished. Everything you will ever desire already exists in the unseen. The only thing that changes is your awareness of it, your alignment with it. You are not waiting for your future to begin. It is waiting for you to enter the version of yourself that already lives in it. The life you dream of is not far away. It is as close as your next assumption. This is where most people miss the mark. They believe the future is something they walk toward, but in truth, it is something they call into the present by the way they think, feel, and embody their identity. You do not become successful by chasing success. You become it by stepping into the mindset, the emotional posture, the self-perception of someone who already is. You do not attract love by needing it. You attract it by living in the vibration of one who is already full of love, already aligned with its frequency, already at peace with being deeply loved and deeply worthy. The future bends when you do. When you shift your state, you shift your timeline. Every version of you already exists. The one who is healed, the one who is joyful, the one who is abundant, the one who walks in peace. That version is already real. You're not creating that version through force or effort. You're selecting it through feeling and belief. The question is never, when will it happen? The real question is, when will I decide to become the version of myself who already has it? And that decision is not made through words. It is made through feeling, through vibration, through the conscious surrender of the old story and the full embodiment of a new one. You must come to see yourself not as a beggar of blessings, but as a chooser of realities. Your future is already done. It is your job to enter it with faith, with alignment, and with the awareness that time is not your enemy. Time is simply the bridge through which your unseen assumption becomes seen. The delay you often feel is not punishment. It is the universe making arrangements to bring what you've already accepted into full manifestation. The more steady your faith, the more fluid the process. But if you waver, if you shift states constantly, if you keep uprooting the seed of belief by doubting and questioning, you make the process heavier, slower. Not because the manifestation is hard, but because you are not yet settled in the state that receives it. You must live with the awareness that everything you desired is already yours in another dimension, and through the doorway of imagination and faith you bring it forward. The universe does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. If you see yourself as someone who always waits, who never receives, who is always just one step away from happiness, then life reflects that belief. But when you begin to know that what you ask for is already done, when you begin to speak and act like someone who has already arrived at their destination, the world starts to echo that certainty. Faith is not passive. It is not idle hope. Faith is movement. Faith is identity. Faith is choosing the state of fulfillment before any evidence appears. And that is the most powerful act you can perform. To walk as if the unseen has already become seen. To wake up with the feeling that the future is not a mystery, but a memory you are now recalling. That's what it means to walk in alignment. That's what it means to move with the energy of completion. And when you do, you are not surprised when the evidence begins to show. You are not shocked when the door opens. You are not caught off guard when the breakthrough comes. You are calm. You are ready. You are at peace because you were already living in it long before it appeared. This is why the inner work matters more than anything else. You can strategize, plan, hustle, and strive. But if your inner world is not aligned with your desired reality, you will find yourself running in circles. The path is not about effort alone. It is about clarity of being. Who are you now? What version of you are you being today? Because that is the version the universe responds to, not the one you hope to be, not the one you promise to become, but the one you are right now. The reason some people seem to manifest effortlessly is not because they are lucky. It is because they are unshakably aligned. They do not entertain conflicting stories. They do not water their doubts. They do not sabotage their own becoming by falling back into old versions of themselves. They choose, they decide, they hold their frequency. This is not magic. It is law. It is how the unseen becomes seen. You are the cause, not the effect. And when you truly grasp that, you stop living like a victim of time, of circumstances, of delays. You begin to rise. You begin to create from within. You stop asking when your time will come, and instead you step into the truth that your time is now. Because you've chosen it, because you've aligned with it. Yes? Because you've made peace with the fact that the only thing standing between you and your desire is the version of yourself who still believes it's far away. So shift, not someday, not when things improve, but now. Shift into the version of yourself who no longer wonders, who no longer doubts, who no longer negotiates with fear. Be the one who already holds the answer, who already walks in fulfillment, who already lives as though the prayer is answered, the healing is complete, the breakthrough has arrived, and watch how everything begins to rearrange itself to support that truth. Not because you forced it, but because you finally believed it. The moment you release the need to strive, the universe aligns itself to bring you precisely what belongs to you. There is no begging in the realm of spirit, no pleading in the world of imagination. You were never meant to crawl toward your blessings. You were meant to stand firm in the knowing that what is yours is already moving toward you. The outer world, as compelling and noisy as it may be, is only an echo. The real transformation begins in silence, in the unseen, in the sacred space of your inner conviction. There is a powerful current beneath everything you see, a divine intelligence orchestrating all events with perfection. But it does not respond to desperation, does not respond to fear or doubt. It responds only to assumption. Calm, knowing, immovable assumption. Assume it is done, and it is. That is the great secret. When your inner world becomes saturated with the feeling of having already received, then all things, all people, and all events rearrange themselves to mirror that inner certainty. You must begin to live as if you have already stepped into your new life. Carry yourself differently. Speak as one who knows, not one who hopes. Walk as one who possesses, not one who wishes. The moment you feel the truth of your desire within, without the slightest resistance, the universe begins to deliver it to you. You do not need to concern yourself with the how. The universe is not bound by logic, reason, or effort. It is bound only by your belief. So many wait for signs before they believe. But the sign is not out there. The sign is the feeling within you. The shift in consciousness is the sign. The moment you feel the joy of already having what you desire, that is the sign that it is near. So near, in fact, it is already yours in the realm of spirit. And what exists in spirit must eventually take form in matter. That is the law. That is the promise. What if I told you the delay you perceive is not delay at all, but preparation? What if the waiting you dread is simply the universe arranging every piece for your perfect reception? You are not being denied. You are being readied. You are being aligned. And the more you settle into the state of being already fulfilled, the faster the delivery arrives, not by force, but by flow. Not through effort, but through expectancy. You don't need to run after it. The moment you stop chasing, it starts arriving. The second you drop the idea that it's far away, it begins to draw closer. Why? Because you're not attracting what you want. You're attracting what you are. And what you are is determined by what you feel to be true. If you feel lack, you create delay. But if you feel fullness, you create miracles. And miracles are not the exception. They are the natural outcome of inner conviction. Think not in terms of time. Time is a shadow of eternity. Your desire, already complete, exists now, in the eternal now, not tomorrow, not someday, not if or when. Now, the task is not to make it happen. The task is to become the person for whom it already has, to move from hoping to knowing, from wishing to embodying, from waiting to receiving. The universe is a faithful servant. It delivers not what you want, but what you embody. Let your inner dialogue reflect this truth. Stop rehearsing defeat. Stop revisiting what went wrong. The universe listens not only to your words, but to your emotional blueprint. Speak the language of faith. Speak as one who already has. Think thoughts that agree with your vision. Let your feelings rise to meet the frequency of fulfillment. That is your only job. If you can hold the feeling of the wish fulfilled, persist in it even when the world contradicts it, you become a magnet to everything you once thought you had to chase. The world bends to the one who bends inward. Creation responds to stillness, not striving, to belief, not begging, to being, not wanting. So I say to you now, the universe is already on its way. What you have asked for is not a fantasy. It is a spiritual reality waiting to unfold into physical form, but you must match it from within, not through effort, but through identification, not through resistance, but through rest, not through proof, but through faith. Dwell in the feeling, and you will dwell in the fulfillment. Let go of the how, the when, and the who. Hold fast to the knowing that the universe is never late, never mistaken, and never empty-handed. It is about to deliver you everything, but it must first find you as the one who is already living as if it has. There is a law so simple, so silent, that it often goes unnoticed by the very ones who need it most. And yet this law governs everything you touch, see, and experience. The universe does not respond to the force of your struggle. It does not answer the loudness of your pleading, nor is it moved by how desperately you chase something. What it listens to, what it mirrors, what it delivers, is the quiet but unwavering assumption you carry within you. This assumption is not mere hope. It is not a distant wish whispered in a moment of despair. It is a belief so steady, so sure, that it shakes your every thought, your every movement, your every breath. When you assume something to be true, not just intellectually but emotionally and spiritually, you collapse the distance between yourself and that reality. It becomes yours in consciousness first. And because the outer world is only an echo of your inner world, it must begin to reflect that assumption in time. This is not imagination for the sake of escape. This is imagination as the very act of creation. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are, what you believe, what you feel, what you live in the quiet chamber of your own mind when no one is looking. A person who assumes poverty, even while working hard, striving and pushing, will see evidence of lack again and again. Not because they are undeserving, not because life is cruel, but because their assumption is rooted in deficiency, in doubt, in fear. They carry within them an image of shortage, and so the universe, being a mirror, has no choice but to comply. On the other hand, a person who walks through life with a quiet inner certainty that abundance is already theirs, that success is unfolding even when the world says otherwise, begins to see strange and wonderful things take place. Doors open, people appear, opportunities seem to flow without force. Why? Because the assumption is different, and assumption is destiny. It is never the loudest desire that manifests, it is the most believed. That's the difference. Many desire greatness, but few believe they are worthy of it. Many desire love, but deep within they still feel abandoned. Many desire healing, but they rehearse pain more than peace. You cannot fool this divine process. You cannot pretend your way into a new life. You must become the version of yourself who already lives it. And to become that version, you must assume that it is already so. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. It is not pretending, it is creating. What you assume to be true, you begin to embody. What you embody, you begin to radiate. And what you radiate, you begin to receive. So when you walk into a room, do not walk as someone trying to become something. Walk as someone who already is. Let your posture, your voice, your thoughts, your silence all speak one language. I am already what I desire to be. I am already living the life I have imagined. Not because I am forcing it, but because I have assumed it to be real, and therefore it is. This is the great secret. This is the forgotten art. This is the essence of faith. Not belief in a far-off future, but belief so deep that it becomes your new present. If you wish to change your life, you must begin by changing your assumptions. And this change cannot be done through willpower alone. It must come from stillness, from surrender, from a willingness to feel something different, to expect something higher, to see yourself not as you have been, but as you truly are beneath the conditioning. The question is never, do I want this? The question is always, do I assume this is mine? The difference may appear subtle, but it is the very difference between delay and delivery, between frustration and fulfillment. Your assumption is your permission slip to receive. Your assumption is the silent command you send into the unseen, which begins shaping the scene. It happens whether you are aware of it or not. So why not become aware? Why not become intentional? Why not step out of the old assumption of lack, limitation, rejection, and failure, and step into the new assumption that you are the one chosen, the one favored, the one already walking in abundance, in peace, in love. Every circumstance, every condition, every so-called obstacle is simply a reflection of your most dominant assumption. And here's the beautiful part. You can change your assumption now, not tomorrow, not after proof. Now, you can begin to feel differently, to think differently, to move as though it were already yours. And when you do, reality must adjust. Not because you begged for it, but because you've believed it. The universe is not moved by appearance, it is moved by conviction. It is moved by the state you occupy, and you are always occupying a state. Even when you feel passive or lost, you are still residing in some inner condition. So why not occupy a state that serves you? Why not dwell in the assumption that all things are working for your good, that unseen forces are conspiring in your favor, that the delay is over and the delivery is near? There is no power outside of you withholding anything from you. That illusion only exists when you assume you are separate from what you desire. But the moment you return to the knowing that you and your desire are one, that it already exists in consciousness and you are the one meant to live it, the outer begins to match the inner. Every time, without fail. That is the mystery made simple, and that is the truth that transforms. There is a place beyond time where all things already are. A realm not measured in hours, days, or years, but in consciousness. This place is not far. It is not unreachable. It is not hidden behind layers of effort or sacrifice. It is here. It is now. And it holds every fulfilled desire, every completed dream, every answered prayer. The problem is not that you are far from your desire. The problem is that you have been trained to believe that time separates you from what is already yours. But in truth, time is merely a shadow. It is the unfolding of what has already occurred in the unseen. Your desire does not exist in some distant future. It exists in the eternal now, the only true moment that has ever existed. Time is a construct of the physical mind, but imagination lives outside of that construct. The moment you imagine something with feeling, the moment you feel the truth of it within you, it becomes a fact in the invisible. It becomes yours in spirit. And what is born in spirit cannot be withheld in the physical. But we are taught to wait. We are taught to hope. We are taught to believe that someday, if we do enough, earn enough, try enough, our dreams may come. That lie is the root of delay. You do not need to wait for permission. You do not need to wait for conditions to change. The only shift that matters is the one within you. The moment you change your consciousness, your inner state, you change your world. It may not happen in an instant on the outside, but it begins to move, to stir, to rearrange. And soon, what was once just a vision becomes a visible thing. But it always happens in the now. The more you live in the assumption that your desire is already real, already present, already here, the faster the mirror of life reflects it back to you. You are not walking toward your desire, you are uncovering it. It already exists, like a radio frequency that's been playing in the background, waiting for you to tune in. And tuning in is not done with effort, it's done with awareness. It's done with faith. It's done with the decision to feel now what you once thought you'd only feel later. That joy, that peace, that confidence. It's not reserved for the future, it's the key that unlocks the future. The mind wants to plan, it wants to predict, it wants to measure progress. But imagination does not follow those rules. Imagination leaps, it creates. It knows nothing of limits. And when you live from imagination rather than reaction, you become untethered from the illusion of time. You stop waiting and start being. You stop preparing and start receiving. You stop rehearsing and start living. And this shift, though invisible, is the most powerful thing you will ever do. Think of the seed buried in the earth. It does not hope that one day it will become a tree. It knows in its essence that it already is. It grows not because it tries, but because it aligns. It aligns with the nature of what it truly is. The same is true for you. Your desire is not separate from you. It is not outside of you. It is part of you. And when you accept that, when you feel that, when you live from that, it begins to express itself through you and around you. The now is not empty. It is overflowing.